Hey guys, good morning. Or guten Morgen, as everyone says in Germany. I'm Kat, this is Ben. Yeah, we came from Berlin, although I'm originally from New York. We're both in the design industry, and although we work in two different companies, we are partners in life. So we thought that this topic was something we saw occur frequently in our relationship, and had several parallels in in products and design as well. So we said, okay, this is more than fitting. And said, let's do it. So we're here, and we're going to talk about love and trust, and what we know from relationships holds true in products. Cool. Raise your hand if you have said this: I love this product, I can't live without it, more than 5 times in the past year. Yeah, not many. But for the ones that did raise your hand, that's fantastic, honestly. I don't think I can raise my hand more than 5 times. I think for me, there's 2. One would be the shirt that I have on, because it feels like clouds. And the other would be this record player that we just purchased. Yeah. For those of you who did raise your hand, you can thank this guy for that. Your prefrontal cortex. It's at the very front of your brain, and right behind your forehead, actually, and is responsible for quite a few things. One of those things is right and wrong. The other is transcribing data from sensory input. And 2 interesting things that occur with this little conductor is the ability to choose a partner, and also responsible for helping us decide what products we love when we purchase things. Yeah, go ahead. A lot of major companies like Leica or Apple or Nomos play into this prefrontal cortex really well. They take advantage of our senses and our emotions and our decision-making between right and wrong. Apple is king, I think, for adjectives. One thing they used recently was everything that's intimate and emotional and attachment and love, and so on and so forth. Just this year, Leica released their Leica T camera, and in the commercial, they say, the Leica T is more than just a camera. It's sort of a companion, someone you trust, someone you rely on, someone you want to keep in touch with. And this totally plays into that, and it makes you want to buy it. It makes you interested in it. So yeah.
So if the same area in the brain that is responsible for making purchasing decision is the same area that's responsible for choosing a partner, that's very interesting to us. And we actually spend a lot of time discussing what does that mean for designing a product, because we're both designers, and there must be a correlation that we can use, almost like a framework of thinking about products. And it starts with, so products are people too. If you approach your product design process from that angle, certainly things like character, opinion, personality start to matter. And that means in the end, you're designing really a character, which is your product, but that product interacts with people, which is experiences. So the whole user experience design part plays into that. And in the end, and that's why it is so interesting for businesses to really approach product design from that angle, is you're building and you're designing relationships with which, if you're successful, this is customer lifetime value right there. Like, this is why it matters to really invest in building up a relationship. That is why people come back and why they pay you money over and over and over again. So for today, we want to give just a few thoughts and insights What we think is how you can get a product from a blind date to a lifetime partner, because that's what you want as a company, ideally. You want to make this one moment last forever. And it all starts with attraction. Attraction is that one moment where you stop and think, oh, this is interesting, or this is cool, or this is beautiful. The one moment where it gets you, and then it grows over time. So just to start with a very on the surface thing first, a word about beauty. There are several studies out there that found out that we as human beings, we are attracted by beauty. And although beauty is very subjective, it is very important for us and the commitment we make in the end that something is beautiful. It goes to the point where interfaces are perceived as easier to use if they are more beautiful, more pleasing to the eye. And we just thrive towards beautiful things that we perceive as beautiful. But it takes much more than just beauty, as we all know, to really fall in love with something or someone. And that is character. So what makes a good character? And without going too much into detail, you really can read up on character design and how all these companies like Disney and Pixar, how they develop their characters and their stories. But there are 4 or 5 things that I think all of us would agree make a good character, and that's what I briefly want to talk about. Is the first thing, and that's very important, and a lot of companies fail already here, is be interested. Be genuinely interested in your user, people that use and buy your product, your customer, and not only interested in how can I make them buy this, how can I contribute to their life, what are their problems, their challenges, and express that interest in a dialogue, in the conversation, right from the beginning. The next point is make them smile. We all read about these little big details and the little things that make people smile, where they just are left with a great feeling. And you have a lot of chances to make people smile, no matter if you're building a hardware product or a software product. These things where it usually happens when you don't expect something to be there and you suddenly find it and it makes sense and it's maybe funny. It's a little bit of copy that you didn't expect to be somewhere there, and you scroll a bit further. Or just products that work in a way that you didn't expect them to work. That's very important, and we heard about that yesterday in Scott's talk. Those are these moments where you are in sync, and there are a lot of things that go on in your body that make you feel that way, but it's actually extremely important. And that's also something that is really, really important. My mom always said you can't please everyone. And I think when we are building products, we try to please everyone much too often. And it doesn't mean you should ignore most of the people, but it means a product has to have an opinion. And it's okay to do things in a different way than other products in the market. And I work for Wunderlist, which is a small startup in Berlin. We are building, actually we started as a to-do list. We are now building a productivity platform, and there are probably 1 million other products out there. And a lot of people ask us, why are you not building this feature or that feature? And we have a very strong focus on ease of use and simplicity. And there are a lot of things where we just say, no, I mean, that doesn't make sense for us. That doesn't fit to the opinion that the product stands for. And we heard about that again from Scott, which was a great talk, by the way. Give advice in areas you're an expert in. And I think that is something we all know from our friends, and Scott talked about that in depth yesterday, which was great. In the end, you purchase a product and you commit to a product because it gives you something that you are not that good at or where you need support. It's almost like a sidekick, for a specific thing, a specific area. And that's why you should really focus on those moments where your product can contribute with a very strong advice. And I think the last part is why are we looking for partners? Why are we looking for sidekicks? It's because they elevate us. They make us better. They make us feel awesome in an area. It could be a camera, but it could also be just an app that in one little area makes us better and makes us feel better. And so why is this all important? Why should we really invest a lot of time in building and evolving the character of our product? Because real character is very difficult to replicate. You know, it's easy to replicate functionality, and it's even easy to copy visual design. And we see that. You know, a lot of products are just copies of others. But where you can really make a difference is when you design it through from the product to the experience to the relationship. Because that needs a lot of commitment and a lot of effort, and that's why people come back. That's even if there are flaws and quirks, they come back, they trust, and trust is actually, I think, the next step from attraction towards this long commitment.
Yeah, I think, if anything, trust is exactly what distinguishes one character from the other. And by definition, trust is the firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. And we know this because the thing about trust is it's distinctive. It's given by other people. Yeah. In a TED Talk by Honora O'Neill, which I highly recommend, she says, you can't fool all the people all the time. And she refers to these products or these companies or even these governments who try to take advantage. You know, they put something out there in the world, they advertise something, they play on your prefrontal cortex, you cave, you automatically go get it, and it ends up letting you down. You trust in what they said, and it ends up letting you down. But at the end, you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And because trust is given, in order to receive it, you need to be trustworthy. You need to deliver what you promise. One thing that I think many companies highly recommend, or rather practice, is under-promise, over-deliver, so that the client, the user, so on and so forth, is absolutely blown away when everything is delivered to them. It was much more than they expected, and they're in awe. Deliver value. We see this when again, companies like Apple or Leica, push out their products and we purchase it, and just there's so much value in it. We feel when love was put into something, when people took the time to craft something. Be competent, honest, and reliable. There's nothing better than a company you can go to if something happens. And nothing worse than a company you go to and they completely let you down. Some companies, you purchase insurance. And you think that, okay, if my phone breaks, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a new one. And ideally, you go to the counter, they say, okay, it broke, this wasn't your fault, here's a new one. But when they say, okay, it broke, here's a new one, your bill is $150, you say, well, why? You made this. It broke, it wasn't my fault. Why do I have to pay for it? And I think people feel like they can't rely on you. They can't rely on what you say, what you promise. So I think being competent, honest, and reliable is key. Making yourself vulnerable. This holds true in several areas. We know when someone makes themselves vulnerable to us. They drop their guard, they open up, they're very honest, and that automatically lets us know, okay, we can trust you, we can trust what you're saying. Deliver clear evidence that you're trustworthy. Like I said earlier, trust is given. There is no, let's work on this together. Apple or Nomos or whoever will never say, okay, we let you down this one time, so work with us now to build up this trust. No, it doesn't happen that way. You have to deliver clear evidence that you're trustworthy. You have to give someone a basis to feel they can trust you in whatever area that is, even if it's a government. There needs to be clear evidence. And in doing so, in delivering that trust, we establish a true relationship.
So we feel attracted by something, an object, a person, and thanks to the product or the person being trustworthy, we give trust. And I think this is the fundament for what can become a relationship. And I think some companies actually manage to get to the point where you trust, but not a lot of companies really, and products especially, get to the point where they have a relationship, where you really invest emotion into that relationship that you have with the product. And so it starts with commitment. Let's say you feel attracted. This product is great, and it delivers value to you. And it is really helpful, and you enjoy using it, and you enjoy staying in touch with the product. But it takes a lot of time and effort from the company side to actually get you to the point where you commit. And it often starts with telling your friends about the product. This is the first step towards making a real commitment. You tell someone else about it. You become part of the product, trying to be trustworthy and showing clear evidence of being trustworthy. And then the next step, and that is actually the hardest part, is constant effort. The relationship with the customer and the user doesn't end with the purchase. It starts with the purchase. And that means for you as a company, you have to put constant effort in keeping this relationship alive. And you don't do that by just sending emails and emails and emails. That is kind of the black magic of e-commerce, where you try to trick people into a certain behavior. What you want is real emotional commitment. People that I just go to an Apple store, for example, just to be there, just browse around, and people are nice there. I can hang out, I can charge my phone. Those are things that are amazing. The little things that don't immediately lead to me purchasing something or spending more money, but overall things that make me feel better and make me connected. And the same goes for just really deep insights into how something works. For example, we had this quote from the Leica T, and Leica brought out a video which they called the most boring ad ever, and it's a 45-minute YouTube video. You can go on YouTube and watch it. And what they show is how the outer body of the camera is polished by hand, every single one, by hand for 45 minutes. And they show the entire process of someone sitting there polishing the body by hand. And this probably didn't lead to immediate increase in purchase. But what it gives me is an insight and a connection, another connection point to see how much care they put into a product that in the end I buy for a lot of money, probably a lot more money that I would have to spend for just the tech specs. And there are a lot of companies that you can probably name that are not Apple and not Leica that do the same thing. And even if you just run a service, you can, for example, show behind-the-scenes insights. We heard about WOTC yesterday, and I think what they try to do with the transparency part, it goes beyond just seeing where your funds go. You want to have a real commitment by your users and by your community, and that is achieved by that constant communication that you need to keep up. And continuous communication, and really just to stress that once more, is the key. And as a company, you can't immediately correlate the effort you put into the communication and the revenue you make. But when you look at your customer happiness and how people talk about you and how they tell your friends about it, that is an indicator for how strong the relationship is. And when you look at, and again, it's an overused example, but how Apple managed to become the most valuable company on the planet, it probably goes to the point where marketing has stopped long ago. It is really that long-term commitment by the fans, emotional commitment, and that is continuous communication, building up what you call a brand, and something that people connect to. And in the end, if you manage to do all this, and I think that's almost the end of the talk, is this little line. Because that's what we want to achieve, right? We want to build up a relationship that in the end brings us from this one blind date where we see something in a newspaper or in a store. We want to have it, we are attracted, we build up the trust, and the company or product is in touch with us all the time, and ideally we found a partner for life. Thank you.